A woman becomes the first in the country to give birth to test tube triplets. Good evening, everybody. It's 11 o'clock, and tonight, Debbie Stiles Lusk gave birth to 2 girls and a boy. She became pregnant as a result of in vitro fertilization, the fertilization of the egg outside the womb in a test tube. Her husband, Paul, is stationed at the amphibious base in Point Loma. This is believed to be the first set of triplets ever born in this country as a result of in vitro fertilization. All 3 children, Rachel, Pamela, and Jefferson Lusk, were delivered by cesarean section, all said to be doing well at this hour. I'm Michael Tackett. This is News 8.
The United States Navy man and his wife, who decided to try for a test tube baby, instead ended up with 3 of them. Test tube triplets, or tubelets for short. They were delivered last Friday in the San Diego Naval Hospital. Today, the rest of the world got to see the result of this modern medical miracle. The 2 girls and a boy born to Deborah Stiles Lusk were premature. They weighed from 2 pounds 10 ounces up to 3 pounds. They're all in stable condition, however, with some health problems common to premature babies.
Hospital.
I'm John Britton at the Naval Regional Medical Center. Don't go away now, because in a few minutes we're going to give you a close-up look at America's first test tube triplets.
Al Keck's traveling with the soccer, so Al Janis has sports. Bob Dale's on vacation, so Joe Reardon's here with the weather.
All coming up next on News Center 39.
Tube triplets are getting stronger and healthier by the day. Doctors in San Diego now say there's an 85% chance all 3 babies will survive. In fact, they're doing so well that today doctors allowed cameras inside the nursery for a look, and John Britton was one of the first to see them.
Go wiggle worm. Yeah, you're a little wiggle worm. Oh.
Rachel May Lusk is one of America's first test tube triplets. She and her 5-day-old brother are still needing respirators to help them breathe, but their sister Pamela Marie is now doing it all by herself without the aid of any medical equipment. The triplets were born 3 months prematurely. They weighed from 2 pounds 3 ounces up to 2 pounds 12 ounces.
That's awful small. I was anticipating all of the tubes and the ventilators and everything because we'd been prepared for that. But visually, I hadn't visualized 2 pounds.
Deborah Stiles Lusk has only seen her test tube triplets a few times since they remain inside intensive care. Damaged fallopian tubes kept her from getting pregnant by conventional means. So her eggs were fertilized with her husband's sperm outside the womb in a laboratory dish. Then, to improve the chances of success, 4 of the fertilized eggs were planted in her uterus.
We didn't really start out to make medical history. We just wanted to have some children. I'm just pleased that they were alive and doing so well. We were worried about the gestation period, and how well they could do born as early as they were.
Just 2 weeks earlier, the success survival rate would have been maybe 15%. And so that extra 2 weeks made a big difference.
So right now, everything here is going beautifully. The babies are small, but there are no complications. And doctors here say as long as things remain that way, America's first test tube triplets ought to be on their way home with Mommy and Daddy in about 8 weeks. From the Naval Regional Medical Center, John Britton, News Center 39.
The Lusks say they hadn't considered triplets, but now they couldn't be happier. The only problem, it's time to do some more shopping for baby clothes. Dennis.
The 3 babies, Rachel May, Pamela Marie, and Jefferson Lloyd, are all in neonatal intensive care. They weigh an average of 2.5 pounds. But doctors say America's first test tube triplets are doing better by the day.
Well, we didn't really start out to make medical history. We just wanted to have some children.
The parents, Paul Lusk and Deborah Stiles Lusk, met with reporters today for the first time since their triplets were born by cesarean section Friday evening, 12 weeks prematurely. All 3 babies are suffering from premature lung development, but all are progressing. Pamela is breathing on her own now without the aid of a respirator. Were the parents ready when the children came?
Well, we've known for quite a while, but there have been some complications with my pregnancy, and of course we were worried about how things would go. So we've got a minimal amount of things at home for the kids, so it's time to do some more shopping and get the rest of the things organized.
Deborah got pregnant through the in vitro fertilization program at USC, which offers only a 20% chance of success. How did they each feel when they first saw their children?
I was walking around with my head bouncing on the ceiling. I was in the delivery room when they delivered baby, so I had the first chance to see him. And I was ecstatic when I heard all 3 coming out crying.
I didn't see the babies at all until the following day because I was not able to get up and get down to the nursery. The first thing I thought of was 2 pounds, hearing it is one thing. To see a baby just over 2 pounds is very different. That's awful small.
Doctors say the triplets will gain weight quickly, though, and the first should be ready to go home within a month.
At Yankee Stadium.
And the world gets its first look at a medical miracle, and so will you when New Sport continues tonight.
In San Diego, the world's first test tube triplets are beating the odds. Doctors now say these babies have an 85% chance of surviving. The triplets made their first public appearance today. 2 of them are still on a respirator after weighing from 2 pounds 10 ounces to 3 pounds 6 ounces when born prematurely.
That's awful small. I was anticipating all of the tubes and the ventilators and everything because we've been prepared for that. But visually, I hadn't visualized 2 pounds.
The triplets do have some health problems common to all premature babies, but all are reported to be in stable condition. Mrs. Lusk used the in vitro method to get pregnant. 4 of her eggs were artificially fertilized.
Had been suffering from premature lungs, a problem common to babies born early. But now doctors say the triplets are showing signs of marked improvement.
Yes, everything is going very normally. They were 28 weeks, which is about 3 months early. And we expect them all to have hyaline membrane disease, which they do, premature lungs, but they are getting better. So nothing unexpected has happened so far.
The proud parents, Paul Lusk and Deborah Stiles Lusk, should be able to take the triplets home in about 8 weeks.
Mike Ambrose. Test tube triplets. Then we'll pay a visit.
Triplets made medical history, the first test tube triplets ever born. They weighed barely 2 pounds apiece. They were born 3 months prematurely, and there was concern for their survival. But it quickly became obvious that this threesome was from some pretty hardy stock, and they seemed to pull through just fine. 2 of the triplets are home now, and it's been a bit of a change for the parents, Deborah and Paul Lusk. Debbie and Paul didn't exactly expect things to be real quiet when they brought the kids home from the hospital, but neither did they expect the kind of traffic that they're getting through the house now. Most of the traffic, of course, has been grandmas and grandpas. That figures. How could you possibly keep them away? Jeff and Pam are both up around 6 pounds now and doing well. Rachel is still at Balboa Naval Hospital, where doctors are working to clear up a persistent lung problem, but she's expected home in a month or so, which will bring up a problem. Now you've got 2 parents, 2 babies, 2 bottles. What happens when Rachel comes home?
That's the big question. We try and stagger it so that we have a chance to go and wake one up, feed one, burp one, change the diapers, and get her back to them back to bed before the other one wakes up.
Mm-hmm. As you can see, that doesn't always work.
Yeah. There are some mornings you wake up and they're crying in stereo.
As it stands now, Paul handles the 3 a.m. feeding, Deborah handles the 5 a.m., and whoever's available trades off the rest of the time. Well, all they have to do is call. I'll be glad to help out any time, any old time at all. From Claremont, Doug Curley, News Center 39.
And San Diego businesses prepare for get you right where you work.
On your mark, San Diego. Your Dachshund dealers.
Debbie Lusk. The babies were 3 months premature, so life thus far has not been easy. There have been lots of medical problems, but now things are looking up. 2 out of 3 of the babies are well enough to go home. I talked with the Lusks today about their unique experience.
There is one thing that's immediately apparent about Paul and Debbie Lusk. They wanted these children very badly, and the cost, emotionally and financially, is considerable. Debbie was unable to have children because of blocked fallopian tubes. In vitro fertilization was the only thing that worked. In a petri dish, 4 eggs were fertilized, then implanted.
We were expecting 1 baby with a remote possibility of 2. We'd not really planned on any more. We didn't even consider more than 2. And then all of a sudden, surprise, we have 3.
Surprise indeed. A surprise which landed Debbie in bed for her entire pregnancy. And still, the babies were born at 28 weeks instead of the normal 40. With premature babies, there can be serious medical problems. The Lusk children have had their share. Rachel is still in the hospital.
She's had practically all of the problems that a premature baby can have. She has gone through it.
At least once.
And she's still surviving all of that, and she's her responses are what they should be for a baby at her gestation period now, and she's doing very well. We went through
4 or 5 separate occasions where she was literally on her deathbed, and it's amazing that she's still with us. It's an amazing will to live.
It's a very strong baby.
And the Lusks are very strong parents. Jeff and Pamela require feedings every 2 hours. For the first 3 weeks, they've had the help of a visiting nurse. But come Friday, they'll have to rely on the help of good-natured people with the paternal instinct who stop by.
Costs $1,000 a day per baby for the triplets' stay at Children's Hospital. And when that bill's added to the cost of various specialists, this year medical expenses may well top $250,000. Right at Navy Hospital. She would have been 3 months old tomorrow. Her short life was never easy. Rachel was plagued by the health problems so common among premature children. But she was at a stage of development where last week her parents believed the worst was over. It wasn't.
Paul and Debbie Lusk wanted children very badly enough to go through the emotional and financial cost of in vitro fertilization. 4 fertile eggs were implanted in Debbie's womb. Chances were good, no more than 1 would take. As it turned out, 3 survived and grew, which may very well be the reason the children were 12 weeks early.
There's more than one baby in the womb. It gets overcrowded, and it's probably just as simple as that when the total mass of babies in the womb reaches a certain size, the stretching effect, the effective size, makes labor begin.
All of the Lusk children had medical problems associated with early birth, but Rachel's were the biggest problems.
She's had practically all of the problems that a premature baby can have. She has gone through it.
Rachel's brother and sister, Jeff and Pamela, are doing well enough that they've gone home from the hospital. There are more